drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello, welcome to the Barstow's Inquiry Sunday sermon. Yes, it's the sermon before York, and we've got a crackerjack of a show for you. Joining me, as always, are my two very favourite cohorts, especially after their behaviour this week. It's Jonas Leng and Chris Law-Malver. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, others will be pleased to know that my week's also been terrifically shit. Horrendous, in fact. I've done my absolute fucking bollocks. Which it's all good though. This is what it's all about. It's a character.
No,
set.
you need to be protected from yourself. You're obviously bad. You need an intervention.
Yeah. And we will touch on this subject, of course, at some point during the show. So let's kick it off, shall we? Let's have a look at a bit of the racing, Jonas. The pre-morning this afternoon. Now, just before we get on to this, I was rather disconcerted at Sky Sports Racing, the French Bird and Chapman, telling everyone before the Prix-Jean Romane that Via Sistina was in, that Via Sistina would love the bottomless conditions, very soft. There was the going description by Davies, except not one of them had bothered to look at the turf tracks report out this morning that said it was good ground job.
Were they in the studio perchance, or had they actually hopped over the channel?
Well, Chapman was in the studio and the French Bird was on course and literally gave it out before the official going is very soft. So we think we've got it bad over here in terms of inaccurate. I mean, can you imagine the furore over here if we run a decent meeting on a Saturday and it's described as very soft and then everyone's telling everyone it's very soft and then it's actually good ground? I mean, it just...
No, see, that's slow by 3.77 seconds.
Yeah.
Slow side of good, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, to be accurate, you're right, John. It's probably good to soft in places. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
Might have rode a bit dead. I get that. But to say it's very soft, and this is the annoying thing, that this is a racing channel here, is it not? You should at least get the one thing right that you can get right. You might not give them tip winners, but you can give them the accurate, the data.
I'm not familiar with the French Bird. Is she any good?
Well, I don't know. Not really. I don't know.
The only previous involvement in French women is from like a lower low. They're not.
I would suggest that's a good yardstick, really.
Yeah.
Do you?
Did you like the French barmaids in that?
I did. I didn't like Mimi LeBonc. I thought the blonde one, but I liked the Vicky Michelle character. What was her name? I quite like the Resistance woman that used to come in with a beret in the old.
Oh, Renee.
Exactly.
Yeah. I got the impression she'd be filthy, actually.
But I also liked what was her name? Hair Flick's mistress as well. I thought.
Oh, Helga.
Helga, yes.
Yeah, Helga. That was it. Helga.
Yeah. Yeah, she always wore like suspenders, didn't she, and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the gear on, wasn't it? Fucking hell, yeah.
Could bring that
Wrong
back,
side,
really, couldn't
Oh, you could really bring that back nowadays. Can you imagine that now? I mean, this is the thing. It is highly clear. Whilst he's up some dress or whatever.
He's always going down on old granny, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was always like, under her covers and...
Yeah. Like cobwebs off.
That's true. That's true. That ain't half hot, Mum. You couldn't have that back, could you?
Oh, it's astonishing. I mean, we are like old souls living in a modern world.
Our souls, not old souls. I think.
Indeed, yeah, I agree with that. Anyway, John, back to Prix-Mornay. It was billed as the best 2-year-old race of the season. Do you share that view?
Not really.
Explain.
Well, Van Dijk's all right, isn't it, recently with the Guineas?
Explain that, though, because you said to me in chat, you said that this horse doesn't have the scope really going forwards.
He's as set as your ground one, isn't he, really? I mean, he's got his shape and everything. I mean, you'd say he's lobbed everything on the desk for you to have a look at. That's exactly what you're going to get for a sector in May.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't be interested in him as a Guineas prospect, really. The filly had a bit of scope about it. She's done a bit of length. She'd maybe make up into a Guinea's horse, but chances are she'll stop over there, won't she?
Yeah, the French one, yeah. The River Tiber, John, in third. What did you make of that performance?
Well, if he'd sent Henry Longfellow or that one way, like over there, we'd have expected him to win that, even though it was 6 furlongs, wouldn't we?
Mm.
Yeah, he was getting niggled out a long way out. He's kept on, but sort of burst his bubble a bit as well. And if the Coventry didn't burst his bubble a bit, because really, I mean, he was back to be a bit more impressive in the Coventry, wasn't he?
Yeah, what are we making? So River Tiber going forwards. Do you see them stepping up in trip to 7?
Nah, I think he'll run the middle park or something like that, to be honest.
Right, that's where Van Dijk's supposedly heading also. Do we think Ryan was that bothered today? It looked a bit of a...
Maybe the scare 24 hours before has impacted his riding a bit. He's given him a fairly easy time early on.
Yeah,
they might come to the middle park thinking they can reverse the form.
The Persuader didn't come out till the last 200 yards.
No, it was pretty easy, I think, wasn't he? I don't know whether he just withdraw, so worried about him. Withdrawing seems to be the theme today, doesn't it? So. Withdraw. White flag raised.
Yes. Talking of white flag raised, there was Chris Pull's been on this week, and he said about the Kempton Stewards on the 16th. A howler of a decision where poor old Burns has had to go to High Holborn to get this overturned. The disqualification of his horse, which won by 3/4 of a length. He did hang into the second. The second re-rallied and closed late. I think it's optimistic to chuck a horse out, even though you hamper it in a flat race that's got beat 3/4 of a length inside the final furlong. I would, if that had been a neck, I'd have thrown it out under the new rules. But I think for 3/4 of a length, I think that should have definitely stood, John.
Up the trend of the last 10 years, really, didn't it? And I mean, poor old Bones, he hasn't had a winner since the Pope died, has he?
Well, I mean, yeah, you do feel sorry for Burns at the moment.
He's not the best of form, is he?
Nah, another stout assistant, John. But then again, James Orton bounced back to form with Harlem Knights at Doncaster on Saturday. He's here.
I don't bounce back to form. Let's see, force the coffin lid open, hasn't he?
Yeah. They look a bit of daylight, haven't they? But yeah, he's a shocker, isn't he, lately? Christ.
Yeah. Two other racing bits before we move on to like racing politics and shit that you all love to talk about. Desert Crown. Good old Desert Crown. A Desert Cripple, as he's now known. Does he race again, John?
Well, I think you'd have to be optimistic to think that they're ever going to get him to concert pitch, isn't it? Because every time he comes up to a race, he seems to spring a bike. So that's kind of telling you something. It seems to me it's where he's going wrong when they get to like the finishing off part of the work. You know, they can build him up all right, and everything seems to be going on okay. And then when he comes to that absolute peak, something goes pop.
Yeah, it's like it's a pattern. It's like the breeze after. So he'll work the house down, do his usual, beat Solid Stern by about 8 on the gallops, and then it's the next breeze when he's just breezing, as if he's put it all in for that work, and then he comes to the breeze and he's all like raspberried.
Yeah,
like Paul McGrath.
I mean, it's just happened so often now, hasn't it? You know, you can maybe say once is particularly unfortunate. Twice you're spotting a pattern, 3 strikes and you're out, isn't it, really?
It is, and I suppose if you're the owner, Said Hale, who's been a fantastic supporter of Stout over the years, he's going to be thinking, well, we may as well have a crack with it. It's not going to make a fortune at stud, though, is it?
Far from it, no, because, I mean, he did nothing at so people's going to start worrying about his lack of soundness now.
Well, that's it, yeah.
You know, I mean, would you send a mare to him?
Not really. He'll be cheap if he's a sire, maybe 2.5, 3 grand. You know, that kind of, maybe to start with, he might be 10. But
yeah, he'd be dirt cheap, I would have thought.
But he'll end up 2.5 if he does stand.
I mean, chances are it's going to be backwards stock, and you're waiting, and then fucking hell, if you've been waiting, and then they start springing the lake physically, well, you'd shoot yourself up the arse, wouldn't you?
You do, yeah, you would. You shove a cylindrical object as hard as it'd go. Yeah, with spikes on as well, just to make it interesting. Yeah, it's what I always recommend people that have like bad flatulence to shove a Christmas tree up it, because I always think then it gets all the dregs out that's making them smell for yolks. You know, the Christmas farts that everyone has, them. The real bad ones. It's horrible, isn't it? You know, you ground at in-laws and that, and it's like, and it's funny, isn't it? Because no one admits, do they? Because it's like, oh no, farting's like terrible. So you sat around at in-laws and you let one go, and it's like, you think, who's done that? It's like, oh, that is rancid. Oh, it's on back of my throat, and no one says it. No one says it. Everyone carries watching film.
That's why everybody's fucking miserable, and they're all holding farts in.
Mustard gas.
It's true, isn't it? Family Guy encapsulates this kind of thing very well. And the other thing, my other bugbear in summers, especially because we live opposite a field, is like flies. And it's amazing how flies can get through slats that are like, I don't know, what is it, half a sort of centimetre wide. And you then open the blinds for them to go out, and they don't go out. Keep it in the window.
Half a centimetre is like a fucking barn dirt or a fly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the side.
They just keep it in the window. They just keep like it's like, what are you doing? You're in the window that's not open. Go out.
It's your arse they're attracted to. That's what it fucking is.
You're just ring you a flat 20 seconds and they're overcome by a fucking gym show. You can't get out there pissed as cricket.
And it is that, yeah. The poor producer that's had to put up with me for years. I know there's some real bad ones over time. Yeah. The best one is in the summer, we have the fan on and then let one go, and then the fan carries it round the room. It's tremendous.
Circular motion.
And it's like I have to wait before laughing, as I know it's just gone at the right time, and the fan then carries it then around the room to the producer, and then I watch your face to see the reaction. It's like, ooh.
And she can't escape because you've nailed all the fucking windows shut to keep the flies.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And that's the other bad thing. Of course, when we record, it's obviously the windows are shut, so we don't hear the traffic noise and things like that. So. Yeah,
third best podcast. 5 minutes on sat.
Going back to Desert Crown, so the dream is dead, and I'm sick because I was hoping that Stotty might get on it one time just to complete the misery. But no, that's 1 out of 2. And I have got a rumour right before, if you remember, with Carlton Palmer getting the Manor House job. So that's, what did Meatloaf say? 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. But he said that.
He's saying nothing now, is it?
Fat bastard.
Yeah, it's all gone quiet over there.
Yeah, fucking right.
And of course, my old friend James Knight pops up today and said, no, he wasn't right. No, the despisingness of him towards me is terrible. Awful, man. But then that's what...
To be fair, I mean, he has some redeeming qualities. Whatever you say about the fella, it's fucking all right.
Yeah. So we move on from that. So the pre-morning, we're not bouncing particularly much. Well, John isn't on the winner Van Dijk. And Big Ev's John has been declared for the Nunthorpe. What a move that is from Mick Appleby.
I always thought it was going to happen after Goodwood. He showed bags of pace. He showed bags of bottles, fighting one off after another. I can't say any harm in it. I think it's a very sporting punt.
Can I raise your sporting punt with "Let's get on it"?
Yeah, I'm happy to roll in with that.
I've got a case here for our sermon listeners. Real good case. Right. The Platinum Queen last year ran second to Highfield Princess.
Right.
So anyone that says about 2-year-olds in the race, well, last one to win it were Kingsgate Native, last one before that were Lyric Fantasy. Yeah. We've had Acapulco go close for Bingo. And what was the other one that went well?
Fucking Bingo.
For those of you that aren't aware, Bingo had a banana split to compare to the Wesley Ward character. Just for any new listeners that haven't listened to us before on Wesley Ward. But anyway, so Big Evs. So this is the thing, John. You only have to say that Big Evs a better 2-year-old over 5 furlongs than the Platinum Queen.
Yeah.
Exactly. You have nailed it. Yes, exactly that. He is better. And I'm not saying considerably, but he's definitely better, which means that means that gets very close to the Supermare Highfield Princess, which means that the prices are wrong. 6 and 7 to 1. That for me, and the only way he'll go off 6 or 7 to 1 if he gets a shit draw. Like it ends up being like 14, 15 runners, and he ends up in trap 15 or something like that. A draw that just not good. Like the one he had on debut at the Lurkle, when he's caught wide and had to cross over to the favoured far side. So that's the only way. This horse, if he gets drawn in the first 7 stalls, 1 to 7, I will guarantee you he will start about 7 or 2. Tops.
Yeah.
Tops on the day. He's a bet. And I think everyone should row in and, yes, plough the furrow, so to speak. So are we in agreement, John, with that? I think we are, aren't we?
I'm happy enough to rock along with that, because I was impressed with the horse at Goodwood.
Well, he's like a tiger. He fights like you wouldn't believe. That he hated that ground at Goodwood, and he still fought, and Edward down, and as long as he's not bottom from that, and obviously Mick feels that that's not the case in terms of supplementing, because obviously if he felt the horse was a bit flatter or didn't eat up first couple of days after Goodwood, then he probably wouldn't supplement. So obviously everything must have gone absolutely swimmingly since Goodwood. And you noted in your notebook on Patreon that you said that there was plenty left physically for a good tilt at the second half of the season.
Yeah, I thought so. Happy enough,
yeah, all good. So that's it. So we've done a Sermon Nunthorpe anti-purse bet, me and John, for you guys. I think that's a good bet. And 6 or 7 to 1, you can get 7 to 1 with N10. 6 to 1, I think 6 to 1's very fair still. I think this horse will be going very, very close. And let's hope he can nut the mare Highfield Princess. Right.
Be a nice 1-2 for Northern Trainers, wouldn't it?
It would. And to be honest, somebody like Mick Appleby, like it'd be amazing. Like to have a Group 1 winner, it'd just be astonishing.
Pick it up along so he can't make it with the TriCast.
Yeah, no, indeed. We better move on. And we've got. I mean, it's been a fun week on Bar Stewards. This is why we love the Bar Stewards. You two have been in top form this week. So much so. Well, John had me in tears. Me and the producer had about 4 belly laughs. John this week did an article on the BHA and basically very critical of Julie Harrington.
Mate.
Yeah, no. And there's a phrase here for those that haven't read it. Careerist Wafflebag.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
I just love it. I mean, the head of the BHA, a careerist Wafflebag. I mean, Chris comes out with some pearls in his articles, but again,
that was a gem, though. That was a gem. And to be fair, the rest of the article is fabulous. Anyone who hasn't read it, I commend it strongly. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant article about it. It sort of boils down everything that we've said for the last sort of 18 months in 800, 900 words. It's definitely worth checking out because it's the best article I've read on the subject of the BHA ever, I think.
Yeah, it is. And to be fair, there's 2 of them on our site this week, and John's and yourselves. I honestly, it's astonishing because not only have we had the BHA Julie Harrington, the weird. Just before I come on to Chris's article, John, the weird thing is though, John, why are the BHA saying making statements like there's no problem, there's no trouble at Mill. We've not heard anyone complaining about how we run things when that's exactly what everyone's doing.
To me, they're basically battering down the hatches, and they're in denial mode now, and they're going to continue to deny every bit of responsibility that they have for the destruction of this game, which is considerable in volume, in my opinion.
It is, and this is the worrying thing, that it's a bit like the old delusional government throughout COVID when everyone could see certain things. Well, hang on a minute, this isn't right, this doesn't look right, you're not done this, you're not done that. And it's like the same here, but it's like the old double down scenario where it's more important to look like you're doing a good job than it is to basically admit that your own failings or really we should be doing this, shouldn't we? But
the big problem with the BHA is they appoint each other to key positions.
Yeah.
Nobody gets a look in. It is based on background, and if it was any kind of meritocracy, none of them would be there now.
Yeah, I mean, banks were championing Martin Cruddas the other day, and I found that astonishing. He, to me, looks like a polished version of Matt Chapman. That's about it. He offers nothing. A guffawing. I've been called guffawing before, but I present a podcast. I don't want to run the BHA. But this is someone that basically wants to keep the racing league going, doesn't understand why punters are so against it, doesn't understand why.
If you don't understand why punters are so against it, you've no business running a sport that's based on punters.
Now, this is the weird thing, though. What, Chris, I'll bring you in here just before we go on to your article. Why are punters just never considered at any juncture in any decision making? They're just not.
Because, well, they're not, because, you know, the gamblers that fund the sport are, you know, the equivalent of cigarette smokers, aren't they? That they're a kind of a necessary evil. You know, whilst, you know, cigarettes are taxed to people's eyeballs, the reality is that the government gets lots and lots of lovely revenue from it. So they're kind of a relative that you have to have round because you owe them a few quid, but you don't really want them around. And, you know, racing tried everything it possibly can to find another way of funding the sport. And, you know, it's gone from bouncy castles, ice cream sales, family fun days, etc. But, you know, society has been encouraged not to like gamblers. And that's reflected in the press, it's reflected on the TV, and now it's reflected in wider society. You know, and nobody wants to grasp the fact that, you know, gamblers are absolutely key to the, you know, longevity of the sport, because without them, it ain't going to carry on. It's just not. And that's the problem. You know, it's gamblers and the reputation that gamblers have in the public psyche.
And the BHA don't recognise this. The same as John's pointed out in his article, that the very thing where whip offences are taking place, again, the BHA then pass it on to the jockeys. Well, you agreed. They say, the BHA said to the jockeys, you agreed. But clearly,
they're reactive, though. They're a reactive organisation. You know, we've made the point before. You know, it's not particularly, you know, insightful point, but they are not a terribly strategic organisation. They react to stuff, right? So things happen in the outside world, outside of racing, and they react to it. You know, I've seen no evidence that they're sort of setting the strategic agenda. And the point I make is, you know, whilst they've always said, you know, we are constantly engaged behind the scenes with, you know, government decision makers and pressure groups, the fact that the white paper contains such swinging sort of suggestions as to how the landscape's going to be changed fundamentally suggests to me that either they weren't involved in the process, or that their representations were so feeble that they weren't even taken on board. They were disregarded. Because if the BHA had influenced how that paper was being produced and how, you know, the recommendations therein, you wouldn't have such a completely anti-gambling document. They've had no input, none at all. You can see that. It's almost as if they weren't involved in the consultation process, which is really, really worrying.
Yeah, they're looking pretty clueless.
Our key people could not spot a potential problem if it walked into High Holborn, start bollock naked, wearing a sandwich board, saying, "I am a potential problem."
They'll be told to wait outside. He's busy.
Yeah. Can you wait in reception, please?
Yeah.
Would you like a coffee? Yeah.
Leave your email address. We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Can you fill this questionnaire in and come back to us?
Yeah. What do you think of the whip, by the way?
Yeah. All in favour. Good. You'll do. That's the difficulty, and I think what's happening now is that, you know, the white paper has shown that the claims of the BHA to be working, you know, tirelessly behind the scenes and engaging with people, it's not true. No. And if it is true, they have to ask themselves, why aren't people listening to us? If it's right, they are working.
A pitiful job.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
I agree with that.
You know, since I was younger, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I always had the visions of the BHA being like Field Marshal Haig and the character Stephen Fry played in Blackadder 4. You know, like
General Melcher.
Yeah, General Melcher.
Captain Darling.
Yeah, that's the BHA setup, literally.
But were that the case, even if they were General Melcher, at least General Melcher had the ear of the aristocracy of the decision makers, you know, because of his social class. I don't think policymakers now have any respect for the people in the BHA. They don't command respect. I can't see, any politician or policy maker respecting them. They just don't they don't have that aura. The Jockey Club, for its many faults, at least had that kind of that sort of innate superiority, which some people used to bow down to because of who they are. These people, we just ignore them. They don't have the gravitas required to run an organisation like the BHA. That's my view, anyway. Probably wrong, but there you go.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is, we are in crisis, and we're seeing this, and we'll come on to this in affordability in a minute. But
that's it. You see, back in the days of the Jockey Club, Lord Howard de Walden owned 3/4 of London. He could go have a quiet word with somebody and say, I ran over Hitler back in the day, don't you know? The problem would go away.
Yeah, it would. And that there's a downside to that, but at least you've got some evidence of influence. The BHA, I cannot see any evidence that they've had any possible influence on what the white paper said. I can see no evidence of any input at all. It's almost as if they weren't involved in the process, but I suspect they were. I don't think they're lying about that, but I think that their representations were so feeble as to be just disregarded.
Julie sent her 3 best blowfish over for the negotiations.
That must be. It's just, I think they are being exposed as being utterly useless as the months go on. And this notion that she said, we didn't know, no one's got confidence in us. Well, I mean, Christ, everyone's a long time.
That was like the Iraqi foreign minister, isn't it? When the US tanks are rolling through Baghdad behind him, and it's like saying, no, nothing to see here.
but it's true. It's almost like politicians, isn't it? Because they exist within an echo chamber where everyone's telling them everything's great and you enjoy the full confidence of the sport. I think they genuinely are surprised that people don't have widespread confidence in them. I don't think they're making it up. I think they are genuinely surprised because they live in a world where everyone tells them it's great, because they don't seek to move outside of that frame of reference and say, well, let's talk to people actually involved in the sport. Do they like us? Do they think we're doing a good job? Because they don't want to do.
Speaking about people doing a good job and stuff like that, Rob Davies, the Guardian journalist. I mean, what a week for the Barsters. Like John doing a fantastic article on Harrington, the BHA despising the Barsters, which we love, and Rob Davies all of a sudden comes into the equation. The Guardian journalist, of course, wrote a book on how gambling has conquered Britain. So Chris countered it with a article on how Rob Davies and others have conquered Britain. Let's discuss. This is a guy basically that he does make some salient points in his book. I have read some extracts of his book, but to me it's a bit rabbit in headlight stuff, because I don't think he's fully aware of how the betting industry works, things like that, and it comes across sometimes as quite, his knowledge is a little bit underwhelming, if you know what I mean. He just basically, he doesn't get gambling, does he?
No, he doesn't. And to give context, I mean, normally Rob, he's obviously a busy man. He's a serious journalist. He's a proper journalist for a national newspaper. So he's not some sort of blogger on steroids. He's a proper character. And the book that he's written about gambling is well researched. But he is. He's the product of, he's a self-taught expert on gambling. Now, we've always said that to really understand gambling, and gambling is, is one of those subjects you have to live it to understand it. It's not something you can read a load of books and talk to people and totally understand it. So whilst his knowledge is impressive, it's still a few percent short of actually getting to the point where you really understand the culture and how it works. And that's the problem I see, with Rob Davies and people like him, not singling him out. But, he doesn't typically engage with people on social media. He doesn't have to. But, it's almost as if these books, etc., that are written by these people are kind of like tablets of stone. They're handed down from a great height, from the great wash to the great unwashed. And I sort of got him fired up because rather childishly I compared his appearance to that of Peter Sutcliffe, the
Yorkshire homicidal,
I know. Which was,
lorry driver.
Hard to believe he reacted badly to that, isn't it?
Well, and it was very fucking childish to me.
You hurt his feelings.
I did, and I didn't mean to, but fuck me, it did look a bit like him in that picture. But the point is, I was being deliberately provocative in the sense that, you know, that I was hoping that it would fire him into action, and it has, to the extent that, you know, he's going to write a rebuttal to my, you know, poorly written, poorly argued piece.
Poorly written.
You know, but that's what he said. Well, listen, and I fully expect his rebuttal to absolutely eviscerate me because, you know, look, he's a clever guy. He's a proper journalist. He's a trained writer. You know, his rebuttal is going to be really, really good, and it's going to make me look, you know, the pleb that I am. But I think
that's a 33-1 shot. But anyway,
well, I don't know. I mean, he's a prop. You know, I respect the guy's career. I mean, he is what he says on the tin. But what I didn't particularly care for is the sense that we are somehow, because we live and breathe this sport, our views are somehow inferior, either morally or intellectually, to somebody that studies the sport and, you know, has got a great knowledge of the industry and has done a lot of good work. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, whether that he's fired up to sort of tear me to pieces. But listen, if he does, fine. You know, it's his job. And listen, if he can't write better than me or argue better than me, then frankly, move over. Of course he can. He's a trained journalist. But, you know, if nothing else, that rather childish comment has fired him into articulating his views, because that's all I wanted him to do. Tell us what you believe. Rather than saying, you know, you've offended me, you're a vile individual, and what did he say? You know, borderline sociopath. That's probably true. But the point is, you know, I wanted him to set out his argument. But what he was trying to say was saying, well, you tell me what I think. Well, I'm not going to do that because that's a trap. You know, I'm going to get something wrong, and he's going to say, ha, you know, you've misrepresented my view. You don't know what don't know what you're talking about. But my view is, you know, I'm an amateur. I'm an enthusiast. I contribute to the sport. So I want to know why, you know, my hobby needs to change fundamentally because of, you know, the views or the research that he's done. Tell us without having to read the book.
He's got a history of and printing stats that belong to Gambling with Lives, etc., and false statistics, basically. So why is it okay for him to parrot one narrative, which is the gambling harm groups, but then constantly attack people that enjoy a bet? Again, we're talking about liberties here, aren't we? It's people's liberty to be able to.
Well, my sense is, you know, and I think it fired him up most of all. Is, you know, my view is that this comes from you know, an ideological perspective, right? I think the sense of, you know, we want to reduce social harm resulting from problem gambling, I think is a Trojan horse. This is about an ideology. This is about people engaging in an activity which at best he can't understand why you'd want to waste your money doing that, and at worst, and at the other end of the spectrum, of which Rob Davies is not, is that, you know, this is morally degenerate behaviour. We must stop it. So I think there is a religious dimension to this almost. It's kind of like a cult. It's, you know, they pursue this with absolute zeal, don't they? You know, there's a sense that they occupy a higher moral plane than the poor people that are wasting their money betting on horses every Saturday. And that's my issue with it.
Have you noticed as well that the view of them, the antis and the harm groups? It's like, if you don't, so say if you said, I want the liberty of all to be able to choose the right to spend the money how they choose, they always come back with that one. Well, you don't care about people, then yourself, you don't care about people.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
Because they have completely, and, you know, I'm not including Rob in this, but I'm saying they, as the anti-gambling lobby, that great amorphous group of people, they have skillfully have secured the middle ground, because whilst the rest of the racing media and the talking heads were all on the piss and talking about ice creams and fucking bouncy castles and madness concerts, during the day, these people were on daytime television saying, you know, we're only interested in stopping people committing suicide. Look at all these terrible stories. And, you know, you can pull these human interest stories out of your ass every single day. You know, you could have a human interest story every single day on daytime TV. And these stories, these narratives were unopposed for nearly 2 years. And that's the problem. And you see, it's now got to a position where these people are portraying themselves as we're only interested in stopping people hurting themselves. What's wrong with that? And if you oppose that, you are therefore in favour of social harm. And no one's, that's an unsustainable position because they went unopposed for so long, because they completely outmaneuvered the BHA, the Racing Post, and everybody else with an interest in the sport. They were better. And I liken them to the fact that, they're the sort of special boat service ribs, and racing is the Costa Concordia, running aground and the captain fucks off. Well, loads of people lose their lives. That's the problem. Completely outmaneuvered. So credit to Rob Davies and other people who share his position. They've just been better at it, much better.
Yeah, you make some very good points there. And going forwards on this, I mean, this comes onto the affordability thing where we've lost quite a few high-profile people recently. Alan Potts, Carl Inchy. Myself this week was on the verge. Yes, breaking news, bar stewards. So after supplying documentation, it was 2 years ago, to be fair, 2 Betfair unaffordability checks, which I passed. They came for me again this week. And remarkably, though, right, I hadn't broken one single harm marker outlined by the Gambling Commission, which basically stresses, like the 7 harm markers that a bookmaker should use to think, right, because the account was in profit for the year. The account was in profit in the last week. The account was in profit for the last 3 months. And I'd not made a deposit for over 8 weeks. Everything was swimming. Randomly, I got this splash page on Betfair saying that I'd got £100 a day spend limit. In other words, £100 a day deposit limit. And I thought, where has this come from? So the producer came up with a fantastic email basically dissecting them, and brilliant email, and sent it to the powers that be, and they reversed their decision. And I had a good chat with a chap called Brad, who was in charge of key accounts, and I realised a lot of punters out there don't have that. They have to speak to the Romanians on chat and shit like that. I'm lucky because I've got someone that I could speak to, and he was brilliant. He basically apologised. He said, we need to do more. We need to train our staff better in terms of full-time players. And this is the thing that annoys me, the fact that the BHA are just simply, they don't see how many punters have gone by the wayside. If I had thought that, in 14 days' time, I'd have lost my Betfair account. If I'd have just gone, oh, well, fuck them, I'd have lost my Betfair account because it would have been suspended in 14 days' time. So, because I would not have given them bank statements and everything else that they require. Why do they need bank statements when I haven't broke a single harm marker? That is the weird thing.
Numbers, though, isn't it? That's the problem. As you say, it's compliance by checklist, and there's no real kind of nuance or understanding. This is the problem. That's the problem with the Gambling Commission and with the BHA. A training course. And I think, there was a piece, I think, in the Racing Post, I think it was today or online, where Peter Thomas said, look, you get all the people in the Gambling Commission together in a room and talk to them about betting, and their anecdotes and their understanding. It'll be a 10-minute meeting, tops, because they don't have that detailed knowledge because they've never lived and breathed it. And gambling is one of the, few subjects that to understand it, you have to do it. You can't learn it from a book, from a training course, a residential course, or by academic research. You have to live it. It's like, trying to be a Grand Slam tennis player without ever picking up a racket, just reading loads of books and watching lots of matches and, lots of replays. It doesn't work.
No. And Chris, so I come back to like some of your comments in the past where on previous shows you've said about how to market the sport to certain demographics and how they've got it badly wrong. What racing thinks it's got to market to the youth. John, I'm bringing you in here, right? And for a fact, John, the youth will either love it or hate it. It's not a thing you can market to the youth. No one says to like young ones and says, "Oh, let go racing. It's fantastic." Like they just find out for themselves. You either stumble on it because you resonate with it, or you don't. It's not one of them sports like football where you just go, "I'll support a team, yay!" A sport where you just grow up and think, "I like this," or you don't like it and you don't watch it. So the best people to market to, John, would be the elder brigade that have got the cash disposal. And before you come in, John, I'd like to say a letter to the Racing Post I read was just that. A guy that had retired in his 40s, he'd done very well on the stock markets, won a lot of money on the stock markets from investment funds, and he loved his horse racing, and he bet, and Betfair chimed in and said you can have 2K a month, and he said okay, that's fine, I'll still play with that, I'll still bet. But then they came back a month later, June this year, and said, right, we need to see your documents before you can carry on. I mean, and the BHA, if I read that as the head of the BHA right now, and I'm the head I would say this is crisis alert. And I would take this to the head of Entain, Flutter, whoever, and I'd say, if you do any of this and hamper our customers, this could be a guy that maybe own future horses. He's got disposable income. He's retired.
He's got time.
Yeah, like to invest in the sport, John. What do you see the problem here? They can't even see basic things like this.
Because the BHA are in awe of the marketing strategies of Entain et al. That's the problem. And when you go back to when this gross profits deal was originally thrashed out, the BHA basically were coming out the meeting, patting themselves on the back on such a good deal while they pulled their pants up. And the sad thing is they've been in thrall to these companies ever since. They can't argue with them because they don't have the intellectual capacity to argue with them because they don't understand their own market.
Yeah, and it's like public service contracts. You know, when years ago, I'm sure it's improved now. You know, you'd have civil servants negotiating contracts for IT infrastructure with the likes of Fujitsu, and then 5 years later, wonder why they're paying every computer cost 11 grand because they're completely outmaneuvered. They're civil servants going into commercial negotiations with people that do it for a living. They're completely outgunned, and this is what you see time and time again. You know, they're fighting fire with fucking, with petrol. It's nuts.
Yes. Hopefully, I mean, the BHA apparently do listen to this, or they get someone listening to it. Let's hope they are, because they really need... No, seriously, right? They might view us as oiks and trouble causers and terrorists, Twitter terrorists. They're right on that, but they're also should be listening to this because they haven't got skin in the game. They haven't got a fucking clue what's going to hit them. The number of trainers now that's coming out, yes, it's too little too late. Hexham Racecourse. Mick Windmill today. Mick Windmill has boycotting betting. He said that's it. No more for him. He's probably done his
Why was it that he said, what I can't fathom is, look, collectively, we're just members of the public. Why were we aware 18 months ago of what was coming down the track? And now it's only seems since the publication of the white paper, everyone's going, oh, blimey, didn't realise that. Yeah, you're telling me that they didn't know, they couldn't have access to more information than we could obtain.
I've tried to stay away on Twitter from we told you so, because it's like no one likes a fucking trumpeter, what they do, yeah. But I mean, I was dismayed sort of 2 years ago when we started this. We were the only podcast doing it. We came up with solutions. No one listened. No one even murmured. And we said what would happen and where we'd be, and we're exactly where we said we'd be. And now, like you say, everyone's on the horses now, and it's no good now. The horses literally bolted. It might help, and I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that we're in a precarious position now. So let's hope that this too little too late crowd do help the cause. I do think some kind of jockey trainer strike, anything, just to say, look, if we can't bet, what's the point? O.S. Harris, the big owner with Owen Burrows and Gary Moore.
Punter too.
Yeah, big punter. He said that's it. He's done.
I think the jockeys might go on strike if they can't bet.
Yeah, exactly.
They're having to go to India, for fuck's sake, BHA. The jockeys and trainers are betting in fucking India. Wake up. And WhatsApp. It's WhatsApp bookies in India. Wake up, you morons. Let them bet and let the sport thrive.
Yeah. But just circling back very quickly about marketing. It is kind of the lazy default marketeer's position, isn't it? Saying, we must attract a new audience of young people to replace the old people that are dying off. Now, that's self-evidently a common sense response. But what all you're going to get by pouring all your marketing bucks into young people is occasional race goers, right? So the people that will turn up for birthdays, when they've got leave from work, etc. But the demographic they're going for are people that are starting families who've got a limited amount of money and a limited amount of time. Yeah, right. So they're going to go maybe 3 or 4 times a year tops, if that. But if you want to get your kind of dyed-in-the-wall addict, in quote, you've got to be going for the national trust, trust mob, the older retired people, the wealthy person who's got time and money. And it's not just about betting, but the person that, can take their partner out for sort of day trips to the races or to stable visits. And if, people don't believe me, look at the photographs of winning syndicates.
Yes.
What kind of demographic? It's almost exclusively white.
It's like Bella Emberg and Russ Abbott. Yeah, whatever your view on it, whether that's desirable or not, the fact is it's white middle-aged people. Yeah, women in big frocks.
For big guts farting everywhere. That's the thing. Just follow the flies. If you want
episode of flatulence.
Yeah. In this corporate climate. Could anybody on the BHA board go in there and say, we need to attract more white middle class?
No, because they're the people that love the game. They've got the money and the time.
Because the Jockey Club are paying Jermaine Genius and,
The boat around the place.
Yeah, honestly, we're in a strange world with very strange marketing policies, but that's where we are. Right, question time. Not the Thursday night show with Fiona Bruce. She's shit.
Yeah.
So we're
going to on a train once. She's very nice. I shared a first class carriage with her.
Any flatulence?
Well, no, but by the end of it, she was like wanting to leave desperately. You could see she's like, this cunt, I've got another hour of him. Fucking hell. But yeah, she's very nice, very tolerant woman. Anyway, whatever.
There we go.
Right. Friend of the stars,
Little Polvy has been on. He says, which country does racing best? England, laughy face. The Irish, Far East, Oz, US, or any other jurisdiction. Who does racing best?
Wales.
Because they only have Chepstow. Is Bangor in Wales?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Fosslas. Ben.
Oh, no, yeah. Oh, fucking hell. Fosslas. John, fucking hell.
Races. They love all that as well.
Heap on the misery. Crapstone, Foss fucking lots.
Yeah. They print the results before the fucking races are finished, don't they?
A serious answer to James would be, I would say Oz, because they've got a multitude of models. Put your models in the bin, of course. You've got the bookmakers. In Victoria, they've got a $2,000 minimum bet liability to any customer rule, and they've got the toting boozers. What more is, and that's why they pay $1 million fucking out for a lot of their races every week, because they've got it right. They're fucking right. They're doing what BHA should be doing, right? They're fleecing the punters, which is the same fucking model that the BHA are doing, fleecing punters. But at the same time, they're doing it right, so everyone has a fair crack of the whip.
Imagine that here, though. But terminals in pubs, Christ Almighty.
But I know what society. It's just shocking.
We need to get on the yellow brick road and fuck off to Oz, don't we?
Yeah, Oz is bad. I liked Oz when I visited. It's fantastic. So, Paul Ambrose, view on James Millman. Ever thought of trying to get him on a show? I'd love James Millman on a show. Actually, I think he's a lovely fella, jockey, trainer. He comes across.
Does he care about his career?
That's the problem with any sort of mainstream journalist. There's a lot I know personally as well that I have sort of mentioned, and they've gone, well, maybe not. Because obviously this is the thing. You can't slag off it's like the Goldilocks product. What's racing about podcasts? I said the biggest hype, the Racing League or the Lionesses. Go.
Lionesses, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? I don't know if I can say this, but
going all that ain't half hot mum on us now, are you?
But it's like, look, I mean, the problem I've got with women's football isn't the football, and not
played by women. That's the problem, isn't it?
No, the ironing boards and the Hoovers. No.
It's the suffragette piece before every match.
But that's John. That's it. John said it. John said it today, and he said it should be just a sporting event. It's a World Cup final, And we're talking about, women are oppressed. And
won the European Championship 2 years ago. They shouldn't still have to explain the battle they've had to get women's football where it is. We know all that. It's where it is now. It's on mainstream TV. It's a sporting event. Treat it as such.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will never have arrived until that is accepted. If they have to explain why they're there, it's still niche and still making excuses for existing, and that's wrong. I like it better than watching the blokes. I think it's more open.
Well, you think he is because he is because he likes the women's golf as well. He likes Paula Creamer.
No, I like the women's golf because the women play.
I bet he does. Yeah.
The women play the closer game to what I play.
Yeah.
There's no point me watching Tiger Woods or fucking Dustin Johnson or anything like that pegging it 370. I can't do it.
You can't wank off to them, though. That's the problem, isn't it?
You don't think so?
He's right. The women's golf. He loves women's golf, John. He's loved it for years. He's always said to me, he says, well, it's better when there's a 400-yard par 4 and they hit it 240, 250 and they've still got like a, rather than a pitching wedge, it's more like a 7 or a 6 iron. It's more like proper golf. So I get him on that. But yeah, he does like the old women in shorts. Who doesn't really? Anyway,
yeah, quite.
The sexist, dirty old man shirt. Right, so Pat Dobbs right on chinned it, someone said. Beecher's Brook. Chinned it's just shit, isn't it, John?
Yeah, going to India. Goodbye, good riddance.
Just shit. Honestly, anyone that's back that Saturday, you should have listened to Friday's show. We said no. It's a unanimous no to Chinned it. If you back Chinned it, you get what you deserve.
Well, you back Pat Dobbs, you get what you deserve, don't you?
You do, yeah, another complete idiot.
Which one adequate riding 5, but on occasion you end up having to back him and you're not happy for 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, what about anchovies? You mentioned anchovies in your questions thread today.
Yeah, just that, Why
what
not?
Are anchovies them fish things?
Yeah, little fish.
You just get more pizzas, but you don't get them anymore.
I like them on toast, right?
Yeah, nice.
Are they nice?
Really salty. I mean, like proper salty. I like them, but some people, it's binary. You either hate it or you love them.
Producers like proper frowning at me, saying she loves them.
They're in Henderson's relish. You like them? Henderson's relish, don't you?
Yeah. Fucking Henderson's relish, brilliant.
There's anchovies in there.
Is there? Is that in the ingredients? Fucking hell, a fact there. Henderson's relish with anchovies in. I never knew this.
The original fish sauce.
Henderson's relish is better than Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce is a complete fucking rip-off of Endo's, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Shane's been on and said, any news on Tower London participation in St Ledger at Doncaster? Is it time to rip up my anti-purse docket, John?
Now listen, you ran around the last year and we're very happy.
You're showing us all the right signs.
There's no firm decision yet. We need to have a look at the other ones and see what the lads say.
Yeah, I don't know with Tower London yet. I think we just leave him in the unfathomable bin. Ryan dropped his whip at Newmarket, which he would do because I was on him.
It's like the horse has taken offence at Ryan chucking his whip away and he's gone in the sulks, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Right, I think that'll do for now. I mean, somebody's asked us about what's happening with Barstow's TV. I mean, come on, guys. I mean, you don't really want to. Why do you want to see us? You don't want to see us, do you? You really don't. You can see us at York this week. We're there Thursday.
They might want to see us on a platform with Yorkshire one next. That'd be about it.
It's just the stage you went through. Yeah, the end of a fucking rug.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this. It was all about Peter Sutcliffe. It was all about the careerist Wafflebag. We've had a fantastic show as always, and we also enjoy your input. So thank you for all your questions. And sorry if you didn't quite make it on the show with your question, but we do value them. And as always, keep posting on Twitter towards Barstewards and join us on Patreon as well. £7 is nothing to hear our waffle on there. It's fantastic. And £37 if you want some really tremendous tips that haven't gone well this week. But that's the time to join. It's York this week, so join Patreon now. That's all from us. Bye for now.